You tell me when I'm ready.
You're ready.
Okay. So go.
Yeah.
Welcome, paranormal enthusiasts, to the premiere episode of We're Creapin' It Real, here on the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network, where everyone comes for their paranormal fix. Real people, real stories in real time. So glad you could join us for some ghostly gab. I'm your host, Eleanor Wagner. As always, I appreciate you hitting that subscribe tab, follow button, or show app on your podcast of choice. Everybody give a hello shout out to our coast to coast techie, Chris Mabry. He'll be doing his thing tonight to help us run smoothly. Today's guests are from the Gallo Family Ghost Hunters out of Rosito, Pennsylvania. I'm thrilled to be interviewing Bobby J, who was previously a guest on my pre recorded podcast, Eleanor Wagner's Strange and Scary World, out of the Paranormal UK radio network. To date, though, I've not had the distinct pleasure of meeting and interviewing any of the other members of this familial paranormal team until now. So having Renee and Courtney join in on the conversation is a definite treat. Welcome, Bobby J, Renee, and Courtney.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, guys. Great. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, this is great. No, we're excited to be on your very first ignore. We're like launching a ship here. This is going to be a hit show, and we're the first. We're very honored.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad to have you on my premiere show. I think it's wonderful that you've made this a family thing. And from what I recall, you began with your daughters at a pretty young age. I seem to recall you sharing a little bit of the story with me that your kids were big fans of ghost hunters and you did this big reveal by telling them, hey, your dad does this kind of stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. It's important to tell the viewing audience that I've been doing paranormal investigations myself since 1990. So I've actually been doing it a very long time, but I stopped doing it for many years. And Renee and I got married and we raised some kids. And my kids never knew about my paranormal past. And one day they found this new show, and I'm sure you've heard of it, called Ghost Adventures. And they were pretty enthralled with it. Yep. And one day, during the show, I turned to them and it was, she was there. She's very small. And I said, hey, kids, Daddy used to do that too. And all of a sudden, the world stopped. And it was like that moment in the movie Spy Kids where the kids go, my parents aren't cool enough to be spies, And immediately they wanted to go ghost hunting. No fear, no hesitation. And we started doing it because I wasn't doing it for years and years and years. And even back in 1990 when I started, it was very antiquated. This was before the ghost hunting shows. In fact, it was before the term paranormal investigator was even coined. I was with a group called the Psy Guys, and I didn't know anything about the equipment, but I was really fascinated about what I was seeing on television. So I said, wouldn't it be cool if we can get just one EVP, just one paranormal picture? That's really all we wanted. And we went out pretty much winging it. And I will admit, we were even trying to copy a little bit what we saw these guys doing on TV. And all of a sudden, we started getting evidence that was blowing our minds. And it was coming in so fast. And we actually feel that we were getting more evidence than these guys on TV. And it was all real because we were catching it. So, yeah. And it kind of grew out from there. We started a web series. And again, we were one of the first paranormal web series because even though there were television programs out there dedicated to the paranormal, Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures, very few people were doing it on YouTube at the time. You could count them on one hand.
And, how old were the girls? How old were the girls at the time when you started investigating with them?
Go ahead, honey.
Courtney was in elementary school,
middle
school, and Nicolette was middle. No, it was elementary, middle. She was quite young when we started.
Wow.
But it was in sync with what they were learning. Everything that we were doing, everywhere we were going, was educational, and it was following along with their history. So it was a good thing.
Oh, that's good. Tell us a little bit, Renee, about each of the girls and what they offer to the ghost hunting experience as part of the group.
Courtney, the camera loves her. She actually is the orbit magnet. Like she was able to just summon them and they would just come around her. Nikki, she was more of a sensitive in the fact that she would feel things. She would be like, it feels heavy, it doesn't feel right, or oh, it feels okay, or so she would feel things. So that was what they brought to the table. And we all had our own little niche where it worked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it did. We had our own job. We had our own jobs on the investigations. Nikki used to get us our leads, if you will, using one of the radar type of apps. And then Courtney, she was actually really good, actually communicating with ITC equipment. And either Renee or myself would be behind camera. If Renee was behind the camera, I would be doing all kinds of things. But if I was behind camera, she would be doing the dowsing rods and doing communication herself. She was actually kind of amazing with them. And we ended up doing about 60 episodes, all across the East Coast, up and down the East Coast.
Wow.
And it became really popular. And
well, you investigated yourself the Palace Theater back in the 90s, did you not?
Correct. That is correct.
Well, for the listening audience, the Palace Theater is located in Netcong, New Jersey. It was built in 1919 and started as a silent movie and vaudeville house, eventually moving onto talkies and other community events and entertainment. But you have a personal connection with that theater, though. Want to tell us a little bit about that?
My two great uncles built it, John and Mike Gallo. And so, yeah. And when I heard that it was having paranormal activity, and this was way back when, I ran it by some of my friends and they said, oh, we got to investigate this. So I said, all right, okay. And, back then, the only things that I was going on were some books that I read on ghost hunting by Hans Holzer and a gentleman by the name of John Booth. So we put together some rudimentary equipment. I'm talking about an old 35 millimeter camera, big VHS recorder that you put on your shoulder, a candle, a pendulum that was an old key on a piece of string, and a flashlight. And when I approached the owner of the theater, I told him who I was, that I was a descendant of the people who built the theater. He immediately agreed that we could investigate because he himself was terrified from the activity. He wouldn't go in there after dark. Oh, yeah. He said there's poltergeist activity, things get thrown at me. So we did the investigation and we did get some activity. And it's funny because years and years later, the haunted history of the theater still perpetuates itself today. And if anybody in the viewing audience has ever heard of a magazine called Weird New Jersey, it's very iconic in this area of the country. And the nice thing about Weird New Jersey is you're kind of like part of paranormal history if you're in Weird New Jersey, because they take those volumes. First of all, people never throw them away, but the company itself takes those volumes and they put them in hardbound volumes for all posterity. So this never gets lost. And they approached me because I had done one of the very first investigations there, and they actually did a 5-page spread on my very first investigation in 1990. So, I mean, but you know what's the coolest thing, Eleanor, about that investigation? People can actually see it today because it's episode number 1 of Gallo Family Ghost Hunters on ghosthunter.ws.
And they can actually go to visit the theater because it's still there. It hasn't been demolished like a lot of historical buildings.
Well, now it's a historical landmark, so they can't demolish it. And if you look in the back of the programs, there's a dedication to the 2 spirits that haunt the theater to this day.
Aw, that's so cool. The gentleman that you spoke about earlier, is he the elderly gentleman that you told me passed away and is now haunting the building as well?
No, you're talking about Lou Batson. He was a close personal friend of mine. He actually used to work in my great uncles built the Palace, but my grandfather had a very famous nightclub in Bud Lake, New Jersey, and he was in the band in my grandfather's nightclub back in the day. My grandfather actually discovered Jackie Gleason, but that's a whole nother story. And what had happened was he would tell me stories about my grandfather in the old club, but he was also the projectionist in the Palace Theater for many, many years. And he passed away. And the current owner of the theater would tell me that he still haunts the theater. So I wanted to see if I could contact Lou, because me and Lou were pretty tight, a big age gap, obviously, but we were pretty tight. And we actually did get a communication from Lou on our Palace Theater investigation.
Oh, wow. And
Yeah.
that he would probably recognize you for sure. I mean, there's no doubt.
We said, Lou, are you here? And through EVP, as clear as day, he goes, "Hey, Bob."
Wow, that's great. I love that.
Isn't that
Would
awesome?
would you please tell everybody about the flowers? Because I just love that.
All
The
right.
story with the flowers.
No, this isn't flowers for Emma. This is we have lots of flower stories, actually.
Well, we're talking about the Palace Theater, so that's the one I was referring to.
Yep. We'll continue on. Okay, again, this was back in 1990, and this is probably one of the weirdest phenomenon. This was written about in Weird, New Jersey. We were told that most of the activity was coming from the ghosts that were living in an old haunted piano on the very top floor. There was the main part of the theater, there was the balcony, and above the balcony there was an old nightclub. Used to be an old USO nightclub, and up there was an old haunted piano. Well, we went up there, and the owner had put flowers on top of the piano, I guess to appease the spirits. Really still unclear why they were there. But when I went up there, the place smelled like a funeral home. The flowers were fresh. They're beautiful. I remember lilies and orchids and all these things. And I went down after the investigation, and I told the night watchman who was there. He was the only other person besides us in the theater, and he stayed in the office because even though he was the night watchman, he would never leave the office because he was terrified too. And I told him about the flowers, and his face just blanched. His name was Harry. His face just blanched. I says, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" He says, "Those flowers were put up there 6 months ago, and no one has seen to them since. And they looked like they were freshly picked." It was like one of those weird things. Like, it's like not something you normally associate with paranormal activity, but what was keeping those flowers fresh and alive is anyone's guess.
Exactly. Love that. And didn't you say you took a picture of the piano and something that almost looked like an ectoplasmic veil of some sort?
Yep.
I think you have that photo in your Family Spirits book too, actually, I think.
It's in Family Spirits, the first line, but it's also in the Weird New Jersey article. They actually use that picture. You can see the old haunted piano, and you can see what looks like lace material hanging down. Well, it's funny because when we developed the pictures, because back then you had to go on, to your, local photo mat and get them developed. And we looked through it, and I saw this, and I said, "Guys, do you remember seeing this?" And they're like, "That wasn't there," because there was nowhere to hang it from. The ceilings were like 12-foot ceilings. There was nothing above the piano to hang it from. And if it was there, I would have gone to get a better shot of the piano because it was literally hanging right in front of the piano. So we think that was a manifestation.
Oh, yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know which edition your story was in Weird New Jersey, just in case we have Weird New Jersey followers that want to look it up? Do you happen to recall?
And on top of the bookcase, you see the little magazine holder? That's it right there. Okay, I got it.
Cool. Yeah, I'd love to.
Okay, this is it right here.
Go. So Weird New Jersey people, you can look in that edition for the story on Bobby J. Gallo's investigation.
It's the one with the shark head, and it is 56.
Okay,
56.
thanks. Perfect.
5-page spread. I mean, I can't believe it. When I I thought maybe I was going to get like a paragraph.
Nice. Well, usually when there's a first for everything, they really go for that kind of stuff because the first is a big deal, and you guys got in there. So, yeah, and you're a descendant. I mean, what more could you ask for?
I'm going to see if the people can see that, but there's the picture of the piano with the mysterious.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
There it is.
Yes, very cool. It's so much clearer there. Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's cool.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But the unfortunate thing is they actually got rid of the piano, which is devastating. Because me and the whole family, we did a 20-year follow-up. investigation with the whole gal with the kids.
Yeah.
And we said, "Oh, I'm like, where's the piano?" And he goes, "We trashed it." I'm like, "No, no, no, no."
Oh my
What are
gosh.
you gonna do?
Too bad. We have a member
Yeah.
on the Lady Ghostbusters team, John is his name, and he collects pianos. He probably would have jumped at the chance of getting that one. He's got a whole warehouse full of them. So
That's crazy.
you guys did an investigation in South Carolina that you videoed. It's entitled, I think, The Hidden Grave of Thomas Sprott, where you got a
Correct.
full-bodied apparition. Tell us
Yep.
about that investigation, because that was where the whole family, all 4 of you were there together on that one, right?
That is correct. I was hearing rumors about this haunted family burial plot, and it was in South Carolina. And I said, "Okay, I want to check this thing out," but it was on private property. So I literally, the whole family, we all went. We drove to this old. It was on this property, but on the property was this stately Southern plantation house. It was beautiful, and Renee and the kids are waiting in the car, and I walk up to the door and I ring the doorbell, and this elegant Southern woman answers the door. And I introduced myself and I told her who I was. And once I told her who I was, she actually agreed to let us investigate the cemetery, because supposedly it was the grave of a Revolutionary War hero, very famous, name was Thomas Sprott, is buried there. And there's strange mists were reports coming from this, and all kinds of activity. So I went there briefly by myself, and I had a very, very strange experience where I couldn't enter the gate, and my EMF detector pinned. Now, keep this in mind. This was in the middle of the woods. There was no power anywhere. My EMF detector pinned. I couldn't enter the cemetery. I got freaked out. The hair on the back of my neck was standing up. So then Renee and I came back later, and she came with the rods, and she communicated with the entity, and it said we gave us permission to enter. So then we came back with the whole family, and we were communicating with the spirit the entire time. Nicolette, or Nikki G, as she's known on the show, was taking pictures with an infrared camera the entire time, a Bell & Howell S7 Slim. And all of a sudden, she's taking this picture. We asked the entity if it would pose for a picture, and it said yes. So she's taking the pictures, and all of a sudden, through the LCD screen on the camera, she sees it, but we don't, because it's infrared. She sees this ectoplasm cloud start to form in front of Renee. And it started getting bigger and bigger. And you can see in some of the shots, the cloud is actually sucking the energy out of the EMF detector that she's holding. And every time it would happen, Nikki G would say, Daddy, you got to see this. And I'm like, no, honey, we'll do evidence review later, me. And she's like, no, you have to see this now. And I would look at him be like, holy cow, I couldn't believe it. And then all of a sudden she takes one more and she goes, Dad, you're not going to believe this. And there he was standing right next to me, as tall as me, wearing a cloak, a humanoid figure, semi-transparent, one of the best full-bodied apparitions that we ever caught.
Do I understand that you brought that clip with you today for us to see?
Indeed.
Oh, all right. So, Chris, are you?
People will come out and clean it up for you. Does that make you happy? Yes.
I'm hearing the regular noises.
There's a lot of noises around here. Honey, where did you put the flowers? Back over there?
Oh, right. We did bring you flowers. We were here last time. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember that we were here last time? It was just Bob and I. Do you remember that? Yes, that's Bob. Yes. We were both
Oh
here.
my gosh, I just got the chills.
Yes. We remembered to bring you flowers just like we promised we would. And I'm very happy that they're going to clean it up, and maybe the flowers will
Oh my gosh. All right. Oh my gosh, Daddy, look at that.
We'll do evidence review later, sweetie, not
I'm
now.
serious. Look at this.
I'm serious too.
I'm serious. Look at that.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
I just took a mommy. I was facing towards you, and that came up.
Oh my gosh, that is incredible.
you're gonna need a flashlight for that.
Hey! I just saw it again. No, I'm serious. I kept this. Look at see mommy how still mommy is. That is another one right next to mommy.
That's amazing.
Look, show this to
You're
the
right.
folks.
You're
Show
right.
this
There's
to the
nothing that could be doing that.
Show
Renee,
this.
look at this. Look at this.
It was right by you.
Aww, that's because you're speaking
Can I
in the
show this,
recorder.
folks?
Thank
Look at that,
you.
folks.
Thank you
That's
so
unbelievable.
much.
Isn't that amazing, folks?
Yep.
What other evidence do you want to get? It's right by mommy again.
Is it really?
Yeah, look at it.
Let me see.
See, that was not there. That next to her is only bushes, and that does not look like bushes to anybody.
Daddy. Are you standing right next to me?
Wow, crazy cool. So I saw the EMF reader and I saw the dowsing rods. I understand that Renee is a gem with those. Could you tell the listening audience what dowsing rods are and then explain what the EMF meter is as well?
You
go for it.
you want me to go for it? Okay. Dowsing rods. You know what? It's funny. When I gave her the pair of dowsing rods, it's like she was using them her entire life, but she really didn't know exactly, how they were working. But basically what they are is they're conduit forms of communication. And basically the spirit is working through the person to make them move. And then you ask them once for yes, two for no. It's not the actual spirit moving the rods. You're moving the rods, but you don't know it because the spirit's influencing you to answer the questions. That's basically how they work. That being said, you have to be really careful with them. If people are not familiar with that type of communication. The Ghost Meter Pro is a different animal altogether, and Courtney would use that all the time. Courtney, you want to explain the Ghost Meter Pro? It's an EMF detector.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do it. They're just, they do this stuff. It's funny, but I'm the technical guy. It's an EMF detector that has a mode on it that allows for communication for the spirit to ping the needle once for yes, two for no. I've actually talked to the manufacturers and they explain how it works. It grabs ambient EMF energy out of the air to make that work. And we've gotten incredible communications with it. We still use it to this day. The unfortunate thing is you can't even get those things anymore. I mean, and I've looked because I wanted to get some extra ones, but you can't. But we've got incredible communication. It was they actually used it once on Nat Geo channel.
I bet you there's somebody who's got this equipment stuck in their closet somewhere and they don't even know what it is. Maybe they inherited their family and they're going to go in and go, I wonder if I could get something for this. And the minute they put them on eBay, they're going to be gone.
Oh, yeah. In fact, when we were at Phenomenology last year, somebody had one on their table. They were just doing their equipment. I said, oh, wow, a Ghost Meter Pro. They're like, yeah, I don't even know what that is. I don't use it. I said, you don't know what that is? I said, that is the best piece of paranormal equipment. And I once I explained it to them, they were like, they took it off the table, put it in their pocket,
Oh, you shouldn't have said anything.
I know, I should have bought it.
Oh, no. Yeah.
That's Courtney's favorite piece. Whenever we're on an investigation, we'll use all these different kinds of equipment. She goes, can you just give me the Ghost Meter Pro? I mean, and that's what she uses every time. I mean, she's great with it.
You stick with what works for you. And I know that my team uses a lot of traditional methods too. We've got the pendulum and the dowsing rods. And we don't have a lot of this high-tech equipment because it works just as good using our sensory and those traditional tools. Like you said, flashlight. They work great. They really work great. So you go with what works for you. I mean, and everybody has a gift of something they can associate with really well. So it seems that's her go-to, just like your wife's was the dowsing rods,
Right. And when I found out, and I actually write about this in my second book, Family Spirits too. Zach Bagan said something that I thought was funny at the time. Now I realize he was probably right. He says when he leaves things in his haunted museum next to haunted objects, he goes, they become dungeonized. Well, I found that the more I use a piece of equipment, the better it works over time. I think it becomes acclimated. The more spirits interact with something, the better it works over time. I don't know what the dynamic is there, but I do believe it's true.
Interesting. It sounds pretty logical, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Which was the investigation that you got your greatest EVP from? You said there was one that was like great.
Yes. It was on an investigation called We Were Not Alone. And basically, it was a solo investigation with Renee and I. And at the time, we thought it was a bust because we were experimenting with some new pieces of equipment and we weren't getting anything. Well, little did I know that I had left my EVP recorder on the entire time in my pocket. I had no idea. And after the investigation, Renee and I are tripping, trying to get out of this old cemetery, which actually is a very, very haunted cemetery, probably the most we've ever investigated. And when I got home, I realized the EVP recorder was still on. It was a digital tape recorder. And when I downloaded the file, and obviously it was long, I was laughing because Renee and I are tripping over footstones trying to get out of the cemetery. And she's laughing. She goes, I don't want to step on anybody because she has like this thing about walking over graves. She wants to go in between them. And
Sure. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, right. All of a sudden, out of the clear blue sky, a female voice that wasn't Renee, because you could clearly hear it's not her, comes in and says, come back. And then a few seconds later says, don't leave now.
Oh, and you didn't
As
guys
we were leaving the cemetery.
Yeah. Oh, that's so sad.
But the
Too
thing
bad you guys weren't mediums because like mediums, I have some other ones, if they would have heard it. That's the thing I envy the
Right.
most is that they can hear that and we
Right.
can't,
Yeah, they have clear audience. Yeah. But the thing is, it was so relevant. And most people that hear this EVP don't sleep for a week because it's so haunting. It's very ethereal. It's a clear woman's voice. Even though the EVPs are separate, you could tell distinctly the same voice. It's really incredible.
And do I understand that you brought that EVP with you tonight?
I just may have.
Woo-hoo-hoo! All right, Chris, could you put it on for us? Yeah.
I'm getting it. Just 1 second.
Okay, thanks. I'm so excited.
This is cut from the episode, by the way. So you're going to see me with hair. About 10 years old.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay.
He's working on it. Isn't he?
I know. That's okay.
I'm not sure which one.
It's a video clip, not an audio clip.
I think it's this one.
No,
Nope.
that's not it.
And that's not mine either. that's not my footage.
Don't kids like
That's
Okay.
okay.
And we cut the two EVP clips out, and we're going to play the first one for you. And this was just as we were walking back to the car. And let's see if you can hear exactly what it says.
I don't want to step on anybody.
Let's try that again.
I don't want to step on anybody.
Let's try that one more time.
I don't want to step on anybody.
Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to amplify this so that you can hear it again.
I don't want to step on anybody.
That is a clear EVP saying, come back. We were going to the car. we were leaving for the day, and an entity EVP is saying, "Come back." Listen to it again. 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 Unbelievable. Now, we're going to go to the next one. We weren't out of the cemetery yet, and yet we captured another EVP. It's a female voice. The same entity follows up with another EVP. It's unbelievable, folks. I never had two in a row like this. Listen. Did you hear that? Listen to it again. 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 The first one says, "Come back." The second one says, "Don't leave now." Same voice, two EVPs, completely related messages in a row. So let's play them back to back.
I don't want to step on anybody.
And here's the second, moments later. "Come back and don't leave now," just as we were leaving the cemetery for the day.
Oh my goodness, so cool. And this was so long ago that you guys got that. And what a lot of people don't realize is those are things that we wait for. We like thrive on that shit. And we're like, when we get it, it's amazing. Which
Right.
brings me to the point about like real paranormal investigations compared to things that you see on TV. I mean, they make it sound like shit happens every single time you're on an investigation. And I try and tell people all the time, it's pretty boring because a lot of times you can be there for hours and nothing happens, or you don't know about it until you go home and listen to your audio or watch a video.
Yes.
So don't believe everything you see on TV.
No, yeah.
Right? I mean,
Oh, I totally agree.
You were hooked, Courtney, but you know the real deal now because you've been out there and you see what it's like.
Courtney's seen a lot. She's very stoic about it now. And I don't know why. I keep saying, "Courtney, you got to own this." I mean, you were out doing this before anybody. You were a little kid. She was the bravest of us all. She'd be running around in the cemetery at midnight trying to catch the ghost, and she wanted it. And, I mean, she'd put a ghost in a headlock if she found one. She would do it because she's so brave. It's amazing. And she's so cute on some of the shows, too. Because she was so
How old
cool.
are you? How old are you now, Courtney?
I'm gonna be 21 in July.
Oh, so you've been around doing it a long time. You're a pro already. Sheesh, can't get any better than that. Awesome. If you will, I have a few photos I'd like your professional opinion on, and you are the orb girl, so you'll probably be able to tell me your advice on those particular things when those pictures come up. But the first one I wanted to show you was from a high school friend of mine, Bridget McCaldy. She sent it. They were at a family baby shower or a bridal shower, and they took this photo and something appeared in it. She would love to know if you think it's anything paranormal. This is the photo.
Okay, so we're looking for something paranormal in this photo.
Yeah.
Is there an? I don't see an orb in there.
Not an orb. She was referring to it almost as a spirit catcher, and I'm thinking that she was referring to the lighting that comes around. She's the lady on the left, so I'm thinking she's thinking the lighting or shadowing that goes in front of her.
We would probably refer to that as ectoplasm if it was paranormal. The only thing that makes me a little bit hesitant is the window in the background. You will get glare if the sun is at a certain angle. I'm not saying it's not paranormal. I'm saying that I probably wouldn't use this as evidence because the window is too prominent in the picture.
There you go. I hope that answers your question, Bridget. Thank you for
Good picture. Beautiful picture, by the way.
they look wonderful, don't they?
Yeah, they
I
do.
also I know there's always a huge debate and division over what's an orb and what's not. We've gotten into this discussion, you and I, before, Bobby. I have 2 pictures, and I'd like for you guys to give me your professional opinion on them.
Go for it.
Chris is gonna put them up for us. Now, the one that you see here is taken of someone's wrist, wearing a bracelet, but there was a bunch of these in the photograph, and I'm asking if you think it's an orb.
Two things lead me to believe that this is a paranormal orb right off the bat. The first are the concentric circles. Paranormal orbs normally have concentric circles in them, and this one does, because the outer circle is what we call a membrane. The second one is there's a clear face in that. If you look into the center of the orb, you can see this. You can see the face. It's right there. There's a clear face in the orb, and I can see 2 eyes and nose. Actually looks like a cat.
Right, it does. It does.
It does.
Yeah, it does look like a cat.
So-
There was a bunch of orbs similar to this. I mean, of course, there was a lot of dust. It was in a very old building, an abandoned building,
Right.
and we were having a photo shoot there, and you could tell the difference between the dust particles and
Easily.
ones that look different. And these are the ones that look
dust
different.
orb looks like a blotch. Is the best way to describe it. It just looks like a gray ball with no characteristics whatsoever. That's usually a dust orb.
Then you also get into certain situations, Bobby, where you're in an investigation and you're with a bunch of different people who have different sensitivities and things that happen to them before they actually have a visual or an audio of something. And so in this next picture here, the team member was already experiencing something around her, and another member was feeling off balanced. And when she took this photo, this is what showed up in it. So we were wondering whether you thought this was an orb or not.
First of all, Courtney, what do you think?
I think it's an orb.
I think it's an orb. To Courtney knows, because Courtney has seen orbs on steps before with her own eyes, and then we caught them on video. You know what makes me believe that? First of all, 2 things make me believe that this is a paranormal orb. First of all, you can see that it has a tail, which means it was traveling at extremely high speeds. This was not an IR shot. This was actually a regular shot. So the shutter on the camera is like 100th of a second. So normally could not create a tail like that if it was dust. That's number one. Number 2 is, to me, depth perception plays a big role in orbs. You can clearly see this is not close to the camera. This is behind the ladder. And that, to me, is a dead giveaway that it's a paranormal orb. Because an orb, if it's dust, has to be literally right next to the lens. And normally it's very obvious when it is. When you see something that looks a distance away like this one does, it can't be dust by definition because it's too far from the lens for the theory of backscatter to work.
Well, there you go, Nicole. It's an orb. Now you know for sure. I'm very excited. We are going back to this. It's an Elks Lodge in Boonton, New Jersey that's over 100 years old. And we're going back there tomorrow along with the library around the corner. So I'm really excited. It'll be the second investigation of those buildings. Awesome. And yeah, so that's tomorrow night. This last clip
said it was real.
And if Courtney says it's real, I believe you.
She knows it was.
This next video clip was sent to me by a skeptic fan who really wanted to know if she was being visited by a deceased loved one. Let me know what you think. Chris, can you put that last video clip up?
You see it right there.
Looks like a light. Doesn't it? Because of the way it's streaming from.
That doesn't necessarily make it.
Yeah, but was there a light?
I could tell you that this came off of their security camera footage.
Security cameras have infrared lighting, and that's what we use anyway for paranormal investigation. It looks. I tell you what. I don't think it was dust, because
No.
if it was dust, this is what you would have seen.
Yeah.
That's it.
It would have never.
It was staying in the frame, and it was moving erratically. A dust particle would not do that.
Can we see it again, Chris? Can you put it on again?
Yeah. Watch how it stays in the frame. That's actually pretty impressive.
Do you think that it could have been something on the lens, or was it maybe an insect, or can you outrule those things?
No, it's definitely not an insect. An insect also would be traveling at a much higher rate of speed, and you can see insect orbs. You can actually see the outline of the insect. The only thing that I'm puzzled about is it had some streams on it. So Renee was like, it almost looks like it was a light coming from a light source, almost.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to have to say this one's inconclusive.
Yeah.
Inconclusive.
Inconclusive.
You too,
What do you
Courtney. You think it's inconclusive?
I would say inconclusive only because it's definitely not dust, but you can't rule out the fact that it's not light.
Well,
Yeah.
to tell you a little background on this story, the woman who reached out to me, she had lost her son in a horrific accident the year before. And she's a skeptic. She's not really ever believed in anything, but she had these two pieces of footage that happened on her security cameras, the one that you've just seen in the living room and another one that was in the garage. I had showed a couple of members of the team the picture, the both of them, but specifically the one in the garage, we outruled almost immediately as an insect because it was just clearly an insect in our professional opinion.
Sure.
But this one we were questioning about it, and I didn't want to give her false information. I didn't want to tell her, oh yeah, it's definitively your son, when it quite possibly was just something that we could explain away.
Yeah.
And I also felt that it probably wasn't, because normally if we're getting visits from loved ones and they're wanting to get our attention, it's going to happen more frequently rather than maybe twice and nothing more after that. So I thought it was safe to say that I felt like it wasn't anything paranormal.
Yeah.
The only thing that gets me is the movement was very unusual, which makes me believe that the possibility is that it was. The tails looked like a light source, and that's the only thing that makes me. But what could it possibly have been? There was nobody there with a flashlight, and even if it was a car, it's not going to go like this.
No, it's just going to.
It's just going to go like this.
Right.
So that one's a puzzler to me. I'll be honest with you.
You know what? I think I might reach out to the woman who sent it to me again, just to see if she's had anything else happen since she sent me those clips.
Absolutely.
As another comparison, because
Tell her
you know
we're
how
not ruling it out. Tell her we're
no,
not
because
ruling
it,
it out.
you know what it's like. You lose a loved one, and you just you pray for those special, poignant connections. And as much as you want to give it to them, you want to just be certain when you're giving that information away.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
what's the most important thing you guys want to accomplish when you go on your investigations? What's your mission statement, so to speak?
What do you think, Court?
I guess for me, it's I want to, I guess, start the discussion about whether or not, we can communicate with those beyond the grave. And I have friends who are as well, and I tell them all the time, I'm like, you can't rule it out. Because, you can debunk a lot, but, if you believe in, religion, or you believe in, spirits and life after death, then you can't necessarily rule it out that we can't communicate with them. And that's where a lot of them are like, well, you're not wrong. And so it's like, I want to really create that discussion in figuring out, where, if we can communicate with them after we pass.
I definitely think we can. That's for sure. I mean, I know one of the discussions I always had with my mother-in-law, her specifically, she had said, if there's a way that she can let me know that she's okay, because she was a firm believer in signs from her deceased loved one, she would let me know, and she did. And so I confidently can say absolutely. And that's a great mission statement to have, to be able to seek those communications and that evidence for sure. Just for
What do you,
the listening audience, we do have a little chat box. If you have a question that you want to throw out there for the Gallo family, please feel free to type it in, and then I'll relay it to them and they can answer those questions for you if you have it. But I did want to ask you if there are certain skills or maybe a certain mindset that's especially valuable to you guys in a paranormal investigation.
I know what I would say, but what do you think, Renee? A mindset when you're investigating.
You have to be positive, and you have to treat this like they're not. It's not a thing. It was a person. No matter who, even though you can't definitively say who it is on the other end of that's communicating, you have to have that attitude that it was a person, and you have to be kind. I mean, you treat them the way you would want them to treat you. And that's how I've always gone out.
And that's what I was going to say. So she just said it for me.
I think we had
absolutely respect that they were human beings at one time.
Yep. We had a wonderful opportunity to go out as a family, and it was bonding for us, but it was education, and it was outings, and I mean, it was just it was the best of everything for us.
Yeah, and
I just love that, especially the historical. The historical aspect of it and learning about the history. I'm all about that too when I write my books. I write the history of the locations. And what better way of learning about history than to experience it in one way or another like that? So, yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And we would, as we were going and coming back, we would talk about maybe questions we were going to ask, and what we were going to name the episode. And I mean, everyone had input. So it was a complete and total family project.
Team effort.
Yeah.
That's great. I love it. And you have them there for all time now. Everybody can just go back and watch.
Yes,
watch
we
them.
do. And we do.
It's like your family version of home videos or home movies.
It was funny because
on vacation.
April Abercrombie, who actually did the afterword in Family Spirits. This was my first book. And she did the afterword in this. And at the time, it was so novel that she would say, this is like having another ghost show to watch because nobody else was doing it. And it's funny because, and I don't want to sound like, our stuff was so great, because it looks a little dated if you go back and watch some of these, but that's the way video production was back then. I mean, you go back and watch the old Paranormal State shows, and they don't look anything like the new ones. But I will tell you that I think I will put some of our episodes up against any of the ones that are being produced today. I really will.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sure. I've watched a few of them, and they are really they capture you. They're real, and you feel like you're there. I mean, you've already written this very successful book, Family Secrets. I read it myself and I loved it. And I know you have this new book coming out soon. Please tell us about that, if you will. You said it's Family Secrets 2, correct?
Family Spirits. Yep.
Oh, Family Spirits.
Yep, that's right. The first one was Family Spirits, and it's a very big book. It's almost 300 pages. And that was basically two parts. It was a paranormal primer, because a lot of the people that were following us didn't know about our terminology, and they didn't know about the paranormal. So I said, okay, I'm going to teach them about the paranormal in the first half. And in the second half, it's a walkthrough of about 60 investigations. So that if they watch the episode and they want to know what our car ride was like on the way home, what we were thinking, they could go to Family Spirits and actually read up on it. Conversely, if they read Family Spirits and they want to see what they just read, they can go to the web series and watch it. So, we did that, and it was very successful. We sold a lot of copies, more copies overseas than the United States, believe it or not. And
wow.
Yeah. So I said, a lot of people were asking us if we were going to write another book. So I went to Courtney And I said, Courtney, I said, what if I wrote another book? What should the title be? And she goes, duh, Family Spirits 2.
Why not?
Right.
Well,
I
that's the
said,
same thing with my
there
Sussex
you
County
go.
Haunted.
We have the title. And then, and
They're
believe it or
gonna
not,
know it's you.
right. And then I went to Renee and I said, Renee, look, I said, we have some really good investigations that we've done since the printing of the first Family Spirits. I said, but I everything that I knew I put down in the first book. I said, what's going to be the central theme of the second book? And she knew right away what it was going to be, and it was purpose and the paranormal. She goes, why are we doing this? What's the real purpose of this? Because you look across YouTube right now, and you see thousands of web series, and all they're interested in is getting more sensational than the next person. Oh, I got scratched by a demon. Oh, a demon tried to lock me in a crypt. Everything's demon, demon, demon. And we're like, that's not the purpose.
All about entertainment. All about entertainment, not the
Right,
reality of it.
exactly. So
Yeah.
we wanted to write a book that was all about why we feel people should be doing this. Well, it turns out that I'm not the only one who feels this way. Some of the biggest celebrities in the paranormal field feel exactly the same way I do. And we actually have interviews with them for this book. Brian Cano of Haunted Collector and Paranormal Caught on Camera is in the book with a great interview.
Wow.
We have
Great.
an archbishop in the Catholic Church who advocates paranormal studies is in the book. We have a Hollywood bad guy actor who is also a psychic medium in the book. And Reverend Sean Whittington, who's a personal friend of mine, exorcist, in the book. But probably the most impactful one for me is the medium who actually delivered a message to me from my departed father. And she was one of the reasons I got back into this after a lot of years. And her name was Sylvia Rossi. And let me tell you something about the story. I didn't write this about it in the first book because it was too emotional for me, but I wrote about it in Family Spirits too. I recently did a show where I actually related the story, and the entire chat room was crying. They literally were typing in, "We're crying here." I mean, it's going to be in Family Spirits too, and it proved to me that there are genuine psychic mediums, and to me, she's one of the best. And she never gives interviews, but she gave one to me for the book, and her story will blow people away.
Wow. So when is this book coming out?
June 1st.
Woohoo! Great.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking for that. And if Real Paranormal Investigations, if somebody is interested in becoming a paranormal investigator or wants to go on them, what advice would you give them?
Well, I'm gonna answer that question. First, I want to say that the very end of Family Spirits 2, I give people an actual breakdown of a Gallo family ghost hunt, exactly what we do from start to finish, to give them our style of ghost hunting, because and you know this, everybody investigates differently. But I wanted to give them what we do and what's worked for us. But the first thing I would say is follow the cardinal rules of ghost hunting. Number one is do not ghost hunt in your home. Your home is a sacred space. If you invite something into your home, you may not be able to get rid of it. Do not investigate in your home. That's my number one rule. My number two rule is don't take anything home from an investigation. I don't care if you say, oh, that's a cool looking rock on the ground. If you intentionally, mud on your shoes doesn't count because that's not intentional. If you intentionally take something home from an investigation, it could have an attachment. And you know the hitchhiking ghosts in Disney World that hop along? Well, there's a basis in fact in that thing. You can get attachments that follow you home. So don't do that. Number three, use some kind of spiritual protection. We're Catholic. We use a medal of St. Benedict, but some people use black obsidian or something that repels negative energies. It depends on your
Crystals.
Quartz,
quartz,
seed, oils,
exactly.
you name it. And you know, and you were mentioning don't do it in your home. That goes for audience listening. It also goes for Ouija boards.
Right.
There's a Ouija board. You mess with it in your home. You don't want to do that. You don't want to mess with
Sylvia Rossi in Family Spirits and Archbishop Rake both are going to tell you a lot about why you shouldn't use Ouija boards. That's going to be in Family Spirits too. I agree. I don't like them. They're portals, basically. And once you
Right.
open a portal, sometimes it's tough to close it. Be respectful on an investigation. There's not too many more of them, but I do outline them in the book. But you don't need a lot when you go on a ghost hunt. Your best thing is you. You know what your experience is going to be. Take along a flashlight, a digital recorder, and a camera. I would say those three things are number one to start. Absolutely, and remember, be respectful. And when you're going on in an investigation, oh yeah, and I wanted to bring up this. For those who don't actually want to communicate with a spirit, sometimes it's a great idea just to go on a ghost walk. A lot of historical locations offer ghost walks. It's a very non-impactful way to have. Sometimes a lot of people have paranormal experiences on these things, but because you're not actively communicating, they're not as intense and a lot of times not as terrifying, because we've had moments on our investigations that would make people quit. So, except for her, she's fearless. This one over here.
Well, why don't you go ahead and let the listening audience in on where they can go to find your book and also where they can go to watch your show?
Well, luckily, I used to have a laundry list of links, but then I found something called Linktree, which is the greatest invention ever. So I only have one URL where they can find everything, and that is www.ghosthunter.ws.
Very simple.
Ghosthunter.ws. You go there, there's going to be links to our videos, our books, our merch. Everything is right there.
Very cool. Okay. Yep. So I look forward to a day when our two groups can collaborate. When the weather warms up, let's do that Deckertown Cemetery that we talked about a while back.
Yes. And aren't we going to be with you in Milford, Pennsylvania?
Yeah, but that's not an investigation. That's a book festival.
Yeah, but do you know how many places around there are haunted?
I know.
I'll say we do an investigation while we're there.
All right, I'm game. But for your information,
Eleanor, we're dragging you out to an investigation.
You're not going to be dragging me out. I'll be jumping in the car to go with you. No problem. But I at FYI, I'm currently working on getting into an old theater in Sussex Borough and an old theater in Boonton. So since you like those theaters, we could probably do those together as well.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, let us know. This was fun.
Yeah. It was fun. Thank you guys for sharing your night with us. It was a lot of fun. And let's do it again sometime for sure.
Absolutely.
All right. Will you come back again?
Sure,
of course.
Absolutely.
Of course, Courtney. What do you think?
Wonderful.
If I'm not busy.
If you're not busy.
Always
the pragmatist here.
There you go. And maybe we'll get to meet Nikki too one of these days.
Yeah, she was sad she couldn't be here. So.
Oh, that's right. It was nice to finally meet you girls. I've heard so much about you. I've read so much about you. I've seen so many photos of you. So it was nice to finally meet and talk with you for once.
Awesome.
And thank you, Techie Chris. We couldn't have done this without you putting those clips on for us. I was so excited. Those were great. Thank you for sharing them with us.
Absolutely.
Viewers, tune in on April 28th when Joe Campbell and Bill Squires from the Newark Paranormal Society will join us for some ghostly gab. I hope you've enjoyed this little journey down my own personal nightmare alley. If you're one of those people who experiences the paranormal and has stories of your own and you've been filing them away for years, I want to hear about them. And if you're a part of a paranormal investigative team, even better. I'd love to have you on my show. Got a questionable photo? Send it in. Would love to have an open discussion here amongst the professionals like we did with the Gallo family today. Reach out to me at authoreleanorwagner@gmail.com. Enjoy our soundtrack music, Headless Horseman, by Alexander Nakarada, promoted by freestockmusic.com. And remember, no ghost story is better than a real life ghost story. Until we meet again, make sure you're creeping it real.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.